Hello, welcome to Enchantment of Eternities. This is my second one of these weekend reviews videos where I talk about things that I've watched this week, but I just don't have enough time to do my own little separate review. So I just come on here and give my thoughts on Cardinal Doomsday. How's it going? Give my thoughts on the shows that I watched this week thus far. So in this video, I'm going to talk about latest episode of The Watchmen, the latest episode of His Dark Materials, or the first episode, I should say, and the entire second season of The End of the Fucking World, which just dropped on Netflix. So I'm probably going to get in spoilers for all of them. So, if you haven't seen it, you might want to, skip certain parts. But let me start with The Watchmen. The latest episode just came out, which I believe is called She Was Killed by Space Junk. I'm going to get into some spoilers for this one. I mean, nothing too heavy. But, yeah, kind of actually. But anyway, I love this episode. I thought it was great. It reminded me a lot of The Leftovers, actually. Like, I could really tell that this is a Lindelof show. But I think more so than Lost is reminding me a lot of The Leftovers. Like the whole show is very similar, where it's realistic and down to earth, but there's some very fantastical elements to it. Just like The Leftovers. And this episode in particular reminded me of a Leftovers episode. Right? Like the Lori Blake, I believe, the main character we followed in this episode, reminded me a lot of Nora. Especially her whole demeanor and the way like the episode was framed by her like telling the joke, and like they would keep cutting back to the joke throughout the episode. I actually thought that was pretty amazing. And I had talked about last week when I came on and talked about The Watchmen. I talked about how the show was feeling more like a spin-off to The Watchmen, which I wasn't sure why they were calling it The Watchmen. But we got another character who is actually from The Watchmen, because we find out that this is Silk Spectre, or however you say that. I haven't actually read the comic. I just saw the movie like years ago, and I didn't really care for it. But I'm sure the comic was great, the original graphic novel. So, but anyway, yeah, I was interested. So I'm aware of who this person is, and that she was in a relationship with Dr. Manhattan. And it was very interesting seeing how jaded she was become, particularly towards superheroes. I thought that scene at the beginning was really amazing, where they had the bank robbery and they had that was a Batman knockoff. That was totally a Batman knockoff. And I thought that was like really funny and like awesome at the same time, because he was doing the whole thing with his voice going, "You better put the gun down." It'd be like definitely ripping off of Christian Bale's Batman. I thought that, and he was even dressed like it. And she was like, but he was no Batman, because he was taken down a bit too easily. But he was what Batman would be like in real life without the plot armor. Because I say like Batman would never be taken down so easily, because Batman would be a badass. He'd have some trick up his sleeve, something on his utility belt to get him out of it. And that's mainly just Hollywood plot armor. And that's because they want Batman to be the hero and unstoppable. But in real life, if some rich millionaire tried to dress up as a superhero and stop bank robberies, this is probably more along the lines of how it would turn out. But I love this character, but I personally am against how she's treating these superheroes now, Jada, and how the system's like, oh, thank you for taking down these vigilantes. How she's very anti-vigilante, as she calls them, not superheroes. But I personally disagree with her, but I think it's amazing storytelling, because it gets into the whole gray area that would exist. And of course, it makes total sense for her character because of her very negative history with superheroes. And it also makes sense for the universe because of what happened with the superheroes in the past, and why most governments would be very much against them now. But of course, her whole investigation when she goes to Oklahoma, like that was really interesting. And meeting Sister Knight, like that, I absolutely love the scene towards the end of the episode where she's like, because throughout the whole episode, Laurie Blake is like being this badass who's like putting everyone in their place and just showing off what a badass she is, and like the way she was talking to oh god, what's that one zoo's name? Something Looking Glass. Like she was just really like just mocking him and putting him down, and like he didn't really have a recourse, and she was just going around bossing around and telling everyone what to do and being a badass. So I absolutely loved with that confrontation that she had with Sister Knight at the end, where she revealed to Angela, like she called her Sister Knight. She's like, I know who you are. And just basically threatened her, and she was just like, "Ooh!" Like, and I love how Laurie was actually shocked by this. That she was totally did not expect that reaction. Apparently, she had never gotten that reaction before, because she had just like thought that she'd lay down all these shocks and surprises and put her in her place, but she was just like, whatever. That was amazing. I really liked it, and as always. The music continues to be awesome. I absolutely love the music in this show. I could go into more details, but I think that's all I have to say about that, because that was just a really good episode. All right, so let me go ahead and move on to His Dark Materials. I watched the premiere of the very first episode, and I haven't read the book. And I think that makes a huge difference, because apparently people who read the book will think this is amazing, because they recognize this character, they recognize the situation, they recognize this. Where it's the people. I have no idea what the hell is going on. Although I was like, I am aware of the whole, because I'm aware of the basic premise of it. In the chat, we got some the reserve is saying Watchmen is pretty interesting. Is it? Yes, it absolutely is. Colonel Doomsday says it does. It does. Yeah, not sure. And what kind of a name is Looking Glass? Yeah, and if you haven't seen the shows, he wears his like little this transparent mask. By the way, I'm going back to Watchmen now, but by the way, I loved how Laurie was kind of picking her teeth in his mask. That was absolutely amazing. But anyway, getting back to His Dark Material. I don't have time to read a book. I'm not going to read the book unless I become totally enthralled with the show, the same way I did with Game of Thrones and The Expanse. I don't know. That's just how I operate. I don't really read books that much anymore, and I have to become obsessed with the TV show first. I don't know. But anyway, His Dark Materials. So the pilot episode did feel, for the purpose that it serves, very similar to the pilot episode of Game of Thrones, which I also wasn't really enthralled with. Like, I didn't really get into Game of Thrones until like late into season 1. I thought the first episode was like, yeah, I mean that's fine, but I don't see what's so great about the show. But it was mainly just setting up all the characters and situations, and that's what this episode of His Dark Materials from a novice who had. Well, I mean, I know some things. Like I know the whole thing about the demons. Or daemons, however you say it. Is it demons? Whatever. That, the animals, and that's their soul, and it's part of it. Like, I know the basic premise of it, but which I thought was pretty interesting. And it's definitely turning out better than that crappy movie. I can tell you that much, because it's really taking its time to sort of develop these characters in the situation. But at the moment, like it's just an intro, and it works well as an intro. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. It's probably, I expect that it's going to be like Game of Thrones, where I'm not really going to get into it until later in the season, once they start delving into the story, where at the moment they're sort of introducing the characters and setups. I think I knew from that other crappy movie, and from the trailers that the person who Lyra went to live with is going to be a villain. And I can kind of get that sense with her. It's it's something really creepy about it. I think the CGI is definitely good. I like the effects. I was a bit iffy on how they would handle talking animals, but I think it works. I think it's definitely a lot more, at least so far anyway, a hell of a lot more kid friendly than Game of Thrones. Anyway, a lot of talk in the chat. Let's see. Demons, Colonel Doomsday says. Okay. That crappy movie got Mrs. Coulter right, you ask your brother. Or did it? Okay, Mrs. Coulter, that's her name. It did. Wasn't she played by Nicole Kidman in the movie? Pretty sure. But, yeah, it wasn't a good movie because they tried to cram too much into a 2-hour movie, which is... There's a lot of books that turn out that way, like Ender's Game, I don't know. There's a lot of books. Dune, no. I'm not a huge fan of Dune. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about his Dark Materials. I don't really have much more to say about that. I thought it was interesting, but I'm not enthralled. I didn't think it was the best thing ever yet, but I think it has a lot of potential, so I'm definitely going to stick with it, see where it goes from here. Anyway, let me go ahead and move over to the end of the fucking world season 2. So I'm going to start with some spoiler warning for season 1, but not season 2, but then I'll get into some spoilers for season 2 later. So I did, if you haven't seen the end of the fucking world, by the way, it is an amazing show. Absolutely loved it. Now, season 2, I also liked, but I don't think it's as good as season 1. But it's still a good season. Colonel Doomsday says, spoiling me, Romano. You don't mind being spoiled. That's okay. That's all good. And also, oh man, Ender's Game. Yeah, it was horrible. That movie was horrible. I was a huge fan of the book. Anyway, digressing again. The end of the fucking world. So, absolutely love the show. It's off the walls bunker, but it's similar. The show is similar to shows like Stranger Things or 13 Reasons Why, or I'm trying to think of another show. Well, maybe even The Leftovers. You can put this in that category. A show where season 1 is like it. Where you watch season 1 and it comes off as a self-contained season where you think, oh, and The Sinner. But there's season 3 is coming out in The Sinner as well. God, that's another show I'm going to have to watch and talk about on these things. Jeez, so many shows coming out. But anyway, one of those shows where you get season 1 and you think it's a complete self-contained story where it goes beginning, middle, end. So having a season 2 would make absolutely no sense. Now, there's been varying results on this. Stranger Things, in my opinion, a lot of people disagree, but in my opinion, Stranger Things, and most definitely The Leftovers, I think most people will agree with me on The Leftovers. Those are examples where you thought that it should only be one season, but when it moves on, the second season is even better than the first. I know Stranger Things, everyone will disagree. People love the first season more. I actually like the second season more. I think the first season's overrated, my opinion, of course. So it's one of those shows where you think, it's completely self-contained. And with Stranger Things and definitely The Leftovers, season 2 was even better than season 1. So it turns out that first season wasn't. The show writers actually find a way to make it beyond just that one story, which seems so self-contained. Now, 13 Reasons Why is an example of it failing, of them being right that season 1 should have been self-contained, and by trying to do future seasons, it just came off as a hot mess, and they shouldn't have done that. They should have just left it alone. The story did not support future seasons. They just needed that dough, that cash. And The Sinner is a weird example of, because the second season worked on that, but because they made it more of an anthology show where almost all the characters and situations and locations were totally different except for one guy. So it's basically they turned it into an anthology show, and that's how they kept it going. I think 13 Reasons Why might have worked if they had done the same thing and changed it into an anthology show, but because they tried to follow the same characters and I'm sucking. Anyway, I'm digressing terribly. End of the Fucking World was another show, because when I first did my review for season 1, there several people objected to my use of the term season 1, because what are you talking about season 1? It's going to be the only season. There aren't going to be any future seasons, and I wanted to laugh at the person who said that, because here's season 2. But anyway, now I'm going to get into spoilers for season 1. Reason why they said this is because, the main character dies at the end. And I was like, but does he? Because it's funny, when I saw that scene, I was thinking to myself, I didn't think he died until that person pointed out. Because they had the sound of the gunshot and him running, and you assume he gets shot, but they don't show it. And it's an old cliche, and I think it's an overused cliche personally when people say, if you didn't see them die on screen, then they didn't actually die. Because there's a lot of cases where that's wrong. Stannis is a big one of that. Where it's obvious that he was dead, and anyone who thought he wasn't was just in freaking denial. But there are some cases where that old adage actually applies. And for me, I thought this was the case, because I was like, well, if they were going to kill off the main character of the whole show, you think they would actually show him dying. So anyway, let's see. Okay, so let me go into the chat a bit. So agreed on The Leftovers, and the verse says, I haven't seen The Leftovers yet. Sound like I should. I've got a lot on my plate right now, but it sounds like it's worth. It's totally worth it. You most definitely should drop everything. Drop everything and go watch The Leftovers. And then the Colonel Doomsday says there aren't going to be any future seasons. Yeah, I know. So anyway, now I'm going to get into spoilers for season 2. So if you haven't seen season 2 yet, you should maybe hold off on this part of the video, but you should go watch season 2 of End of the Fucking World. So spoilers, he's not dead. just like I thought that he wouldn't be. And it's funny because the trailers and everything lead you to believe that he's dead, because they don't show him, they don't mention him, they make it seem like, because the trailers show you like it's about this girl Bonnie who's going off to kill Alyssa, but they don't show you that she's actually going off to kill Alyssa and James, and they don't even reveal until the second episode that James is still alive. So they make you think throughout the first episode and halfway through the second episode that James is dead, until they finally reveal that he's alive. And I was like, of course he's alive. And now here's the thing about season 2 of End of the Fucking World. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good season, but it wasn't as powerful as the first season, first of all. It wasn't as off-the-walls bonkers. And I think they tried to do it, and sometimes they tried to be too hard, in my opinion. But the main reason why I wasn't as big on season 2 as it was season 1 is because I don't think the relationship between James and Alyssa worked. Because in season 1, James was like talking about killing her the whole time, and it felt like he was the asshole then, but then she would do stuff that's off the walls and be an asshole to him, but he thought like he kind of deserved it because he's wanting to kill her. But then of course by the end of season 1 he revolves in that and realized that he doesn't have to, and so in season 2 he's like just a lovesick puppy. However the saying is, he's just in love with her the whole time, and so she's treating him like shit the entire second season, and you don't have that same balance there. In season 1 there was a balance where neither was in the right or in the wrong, and also in season 1 they would have moments of like being shitty to each other, but moments of like the touching moments where you felt they were connected and they were in love. Whereas in season 2, there wasn't really. It was just like it was built, the entire season was them being shitty to each other. And at the very end is when they finally connected. And to me, that didn't work as well season 1, where it was more ups and downs, whereas season 2 was like one giant down and finally went up at the end. It's not as interesting. And yeah, as I said, it wasn't as balanced. Like the way that she was treating him, you could argue it was just as bad as season 1, but as I said, there was a lot of circumstances that made it not as bad. But in season 2, she was the bad guy rather than it being balanced. She didn't. Me personally, anyway, I thought that she was being. Although I did really something I still really loved about the show in particular. I loved the way it uses internal monologue and how it switches between the two characters, and you can hear both their different internal monologues, and to see the contrast of what they say and what they actually think and how they actually feel. And a lot of what she says, where she's outwardly being very horrible to him, she's actually thinking something totally different. And of course, you could tell that she wasn't happy with her life with her new husband, and that she would really want to be with James again, because otherwise she wouldn't have left her husband in the first place. You knew that she still had that attraction for him, but she refused to admit it throughout the entire season, and I found that very frustrating, honestly. And the character of Bonnie, who was, trying to kill them the whole time, she was okay. I wasn't really as into her as some of the season 1 characters. And, some of the scenes were actually really funny, of course, and absolutely crazy off the walls. I almost thought they were going to do a repeat of season 1, because season 1, of course, James wanted to kill Alyssa throughout half the season until he finally, fell in love with her and changed his mind, and they became good friends by the end of it. And I kind of thought the same thing would happen with Bonnie, where she wanted to kill them both throughout the season, and they would just repeat the arc. Kind of a little bit did with that ending, where she realized that she didn't kill him, and they pinned her down and stopped her from killing herself. But I don't know if I'd say they really became friends, and maybe that's a good thing, because it would have been a bit repetitive to repeat the same exact arc from season 1. But I thought maybe it would be a bit more interesting. But anyway. Yeah, so I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it, but not cool, because season 1 I gave it 9 out of 10. Season 1 I thought was amazing. I didn't think season 2 was quite as amazing. It didn't. I don't think it had any flaws. It just didn't have that punch and that connectedness that season 1 did. Anyway, yeah. That's all I gotta say about End of the Fucking World. So that's all I gotta say about this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this, and keep an eye out on my channel as I do more of these random whatever thingies. Oh, also, huge announcement, if you have not heard yet, I am going, actually tomorrow, I am going to the West Coast, the other side of the country, visit my brother. And we are going to do the next review. We're going to watch Mr. Robot together on Sunday, and we're going to review it together. We haven't figured out whose channel it's going to be. And on Monday, we want to do a live Q&A video. So maybe I should announce that. I'm going to try. I guess I'll have to figure it out because I don't even know whose channel that's going to be on yet. It's going to be my channel, his channel, or both our channels, whatever. But we're going to try to do a live Q&A where we'll just talk about whatever, talk about anything. But anyway, so yeah, just keep an eye out for that. It's going to be Sunday and Monday. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.